Hey, friends, welcome to the Inner Authority Era podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today. I have such a beautiful message to share with you. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see some cards in front of me. I did a tarot pull. I sort of knew what was coming through, but I love doing this because this is just such a beautiful way for me to get out of my head and to really just ask, what is the message that's coming through for you? What is it that I need to share with you today? Because I don't want to be bogged down and entangled by anything that's going on in my world that I either am not confident enough to share, or maybe there's a version of it that I want to tweak a certain way. I'm here to just let it come through for you in the most raw and real way because you deserve that. That's part of what I'm here to do. I'm here to show you the ways that it can be messy. I'm here to show you that you can absolutely lead from the middle of climbing the mountain. You don't have to have climbed the mountain. You don't have to have made $1 million. You don't have to have all this traditional success to be a leader. You are a leader based on the frequency that you anchor into, based on the energy that you bring to the world consistently. It's not the energy that you bring when you're on a yoga mat or when you've taken an edible and you're just feeling really, really good. It's the consistency of the energy that you hold most of the time. And it doesn't mean that I don't ever doubt myself. It doesn't always look positive and fun, but it's the frequency and the energy that I bring to every situation, this imperfection, this authenticity, this vulnerability, this intimacy, this transparency. Everyone in my life sees that from me, be, and everyone on social media sees that from me because that is exactly who I am. That is exactly the kind of leader that I am. And you can be that leader too. So I'm going to share the most vulnerable thing I potentially ever will share. I'm sure I'm going to be proved wrong, maybe even a month from now, but I can't imagine it getting more vulnerable and transparent than what I'm about to tell you right now. If you've listened to past episodes, I believe I've mentioned to an extent about my past financial struggles. Basically, as soon as I got out of college and I got into finance, I was not even remotely ready for the roles that I was trying to take on. I was not even remotely ready for commission only or mostly commission things. I all I knew was scarcity. My family was maybe middle class, but I would probably even say if you want to call lower middle class a thing, like we definitely weren't poor, but we didn't have a lot. And so I didn't know what it looked like to feel safe. I didn't know what it looked like to have financial abundance. I didn't grow up with that. I grew up with a mom who held on to things very tightly. And I don't blame her for that. It's something that unfortunately a lot of people do because they don't actually understand the abundance that's available to them. And so I spent over a decade not even remotely understanding the abundance that was available to me as well. And so I spent this entire career that could have absolutely been very lucrative in finance, almost always being very concerned about money. Because that's the thing. It centers around your beliefs, it centers around your energy. It's not about the dollar amount that's in the account. Because I could have had $1 million in the account and still chose to feel scarcity and lack about that. It's what you choose to bring to that moment. It's the standard that you have. It's the knowing that you have in your body. And so all I knew was scarcity and lack. All I believed was scarcity and lack. It didn't matter how much was in the account, even though for the last 2 years of being in my career for 2023 and 2024, I did finally reach six figures, which to a lot of people is actually something pretty great. But yet I had debt. I got divorced. I had other things going on. So the money still never felt like enough 100,000 didn't really feel any different from 75,000 because of what was going on in here. And so when I left my job in April, I knew that I was going to have an uphill battle. And I guess theoretically, that's a story that I told myself, but I wasn't going to go from 0 to 60. I knew that I was ready to heal these financial wounds. I was ready to heal this lack and scarcity because really it boils down to things like unworthiness. It's not just about money. It's never just about money because money in and of itself is an exchange of energy. It's giving and receiving. It's support from the universe and support from others. So to say you're worried about money is never even remotely the deepest truth anyway. But I knew I was ready to heal whatever it was. When I was leaving work, I knew I was saying, I am going to face some massive challenges, some things that haven't fully been figured out yet. Not that no matter what time I decided to leave to start this business, it never would have been fully figured out, of course. But I knew I still had a long way to go. And I needed to get there in a fairly short period of time because between what was in my bank account and the investments that I had, including my 401k, I could maybe get myself about 3, maybe 4 months. And so I knew what the clock was when I started. I knew the clock was ticking. I tried to not keep that in my head, but I knew the clock was ticking. And it was really hard when I joined that mastermind that I've talked about before, the spiritual investor mastermind. I have no regrets for that whatsoever. Elizabeth Ralph absolutely changed my life, but that made it that much harder. When I made that decision in May, I was deciding that I was potentially cutting that shorter. Again, a story I was telling myself, not actual reality, but I knew I was potentially cutting it shorter. I also knew, I had that much more potential to heal. I had that much more potential to quantum leap into a version of myself that would no longer lead from that afraid place. Not a version of me that wouldn't have a day where there's doubt, that wouldn't have any fear, but would always lead from a different standard, that would always lead from a place of confidence and worthiness and knowing and just real authentic leadership. I knew that I would get that from being in her mastermind. So I chose that. I chose something that was not cheap, that was potentially shortening my time frame. And in the middle of all of that, I wound up realizing that the business was not authentic to me. I didn't know exactly what needed to change, but I knew almost everything needed to change. I knew something was off because I wasn't even enjoying trying to tell people about what I was doing. I had my freedom and I didn't want my parents or any of my friends or anyone to actually know what I was doing. There were a few people really close to me that I was excited to tell. Like one of my best friends, Connor, he was one of the first people I was so excited to tell about me leaving work. But it was from a place of me knowing that I was finally going to start making a difference in the world because he's believed in me for a really long time, far longer than I ever believed in myself. But it wasn't because I wanted to tell him what I was doing. I did still dance around exactly what I was doing every time he asked. And so that felt really shitty. And if you've heard past episodes, I've told you about that a little bit, but it goes so much deeper because ultimately we get to this last week. So I finished that first round of the mastermind. I was actually invited to join again, but that's sort of another thing for a different conversation. So last week, as I talked about on the podcast last week, I spoke with Jessica Zweig, team who is also an absolutely incredible person. I have yet to be in one of her containers, but I'm in the middle of her book, The Light Work, and I listen to her podcast consistently. And I just know she's going to be one of those spiritual teachers that I'm going to get the chance to be in her energy at some point. She is going to make a massive difference for me. But I had a choice to make in this last week because in discussing with them about being in her mastermind, it wasn't the same situation as it was in May when I decided to connect with Elizabeth. In May, I had the money. I was a little afraid to use it, but I had the money. As I looked at everything last week, I started to feel guilt and shame. I cried a hell of a lot last Monday because I've been here before. My investments are completely depleted. My bank account was literally overdrawn this morning. I have to make money this month. Like this business, these new offers that are finally getting relaunched this week, things that are very authentic to who I am, they either have to work or luckily I have a little bit of room on a credit card to pay rent at the end of the month, but that's about as far as I get. I won't be able to pay for everything in September if I don't lead from this consistently energetic, confident place. And I'm telling you this because I'm not the only one out there struggling with money. I'm telling you this because I'm not the only one out there struggling with how can I be a leader when I don't have proof for anyone? But that's not what this new paradigm and this new earth and this new way of living, this future human is asking for. We are in the in between. So unfortunately, you will still see the old ways. You will absolutely still see some traditional success. You will see some people who are far too polished. You will see the people trying to lead from that place of I figured it out, so you should buy from me. But do you really want to learn from those people? I mean, don't you get turned off by those people so much unless you're in such a place of scarcity where you just think that they're going to save you? Like, really stop and think about that for a second. Probably at least 90% of you listening to this podcast are so tired of the people who say, I have it all figured out. So come over here. I have the answer for you. I'm tired of it too. So why would I lead from that place? Why would I assume that I have to be a certain age? I've had to go through certain things. I mean, it so happens I've gone through a shit ton, so I have no lack of experience and wisdom. But why do I have to be a certain age? Why do I have to have gone through certain things? Why do I have to have certain certifications? Why do I have to have made a certain amount of money? Why can't I be a leader in this moment where I'm holding the same frequency, the same consistent, confident energy that the version of me that will m- make $1 million by the end of this year hold? Yes, you heard me correctly. I am suggesting I will make $1 million by the end of the year. That is something that has already came out of my mouth more than once. I don't know exactly how that's going to work, but I don't need to. That's the point. We're not meant to try to control the abundance. We're not meant to try to figure out exactly how everything's working. And if I'm wrong and maybe I make 150 or 250, I will never be upset with myself for the degree to which I rooted in this knowing and rooted in this confidence that I am capable of anything. Because in any moment, we have infinite potential. So it is as equally possible that I will have no money at the end of the year as I will have 1 million. Because that's the world we live in. That's paradox. You can't have one thing is not more possible than the other. That's not how that works. And so again, the dollar amount doesn't really matter. It's the energy behind it. And that's the same with my work in the world. It doesn't matter if I've if I'm starting my first mastermind, or if I've already done 10 of them and I've already quote unquote mastered it, because I am anchoring into a version of myself that is capable of anything that I have ever wanted. All of the speaking I want to do, all of the best selling books I'm going to write, all of the homes I'm going to own, all of the amazing trips I'm going to take, all of the amazing people I'm going to meet. Everything that is ever going to happen is anchored in by this version of me here. And all it takes is some confidence and some positivity and some willing to meet the challenge and some knowingness that everything is going to work out. And again, that is not a perfection of energy. It is just a consistency of this energy. I may have this confidence here for you today, but yet tomorrow I might cry and I might just lose it. I might not be okay. I might have all the doubt in the world, but it only matters what place am I leading from. And in order to answer that question from yourself, you have to understand, does it feel new or does it just feel like the old but slightly different circumstances? When I created the consulting business in April, but I said it was consulting, but not really consulting. Like it was a little bit more spiritual. It was a little bit more energetic. It wasn't really consulting. That was so much of the old. That was still me leading from a point of scarcity. That was me saying, you won't like what I have to say unless it's really digestible. You won't like what I have to say unless you can make sense of it in 5 seconds. And but I'm still going to do it a little bit differently because it still has to be authentic to me. I'm not just going to like pretend that I know a ton about business strategy or that's like really what I want to talk about. So, I'm going to call it that so it's really recognizable and digestible. I'm going to call the podcast something that's really recognizable and digestible, but like we're not going to do that. And the thing is you can't play in both worlds. The 5 of Wands. So all of my cards are this is a quantum tarot deck. I love this deck so much. I connect so much with like celestial things, quantum things. Like my soul is genuinely like not only of this earth. I will tell you that. So this card means particle annihilations. You can kind of already guess what that might mean without even having any clue of anything in quantum physics or anything like that. It means particles are colliding. And when particles are colliding, energy is not destroyed, it just changes over to something else. But they're colliding because they can't exist in the form that they're in any longer. And that's my message for you. There's so many things that you're wanting. You're wanting abundance. You're wanting clarity. You're wanting a life that you truly love. But you haven't allowed yourself to collide. You haven't allowed yourself to annihilate that old version. That doesn't mean that you don't love them. That doesn't mean that you didn't learn from them. It just means they don't get to lead anymore. They don't get to decide exactly what happens and why. Because all that old version knows is the past. That old version only knows the mistakes and the scarcity and the lack. That old version really struggles to find the confidence and the worthiness and the positivity and the knowing. And so, if you want a vastly different life, you have to lead from a vastly different version of yourself. You can't try to control everything around you, including the abundance coming in, and still be showing up as who you were. It will never work. It may look like it works for 5 seconds. You may make a little bit more money for a couple months. You may start a new relationship and it may go well. Like there's different things that might work for a short period of time because even a blind squirrel finds a nut. And that's not me being harsh. That's just me genuinely letting you know how it works. You are probably not going to go through life never having figured it out whatsoever. But the difference is do you want to feel good for a couple months or do you want to feel good for the rest of your life? Because if you meet this new version of you, if you make the quantum leap that you know you're needing to make, that the universe has been asking of you, that your higher timeline and your higher self has been asking of you, you will never regret that. It doesn't mean you'll never doubt. It doesn't mean you'll never be frustrated. But again, to my point of, am I going to have $250,000 in my investment account at the end of the year? Or am I maybe just going to make $150,000 between now and the end of the year? That doesn't matter because that future version of myself, the version that I'm anchoring into right now, doesn't give a shit. I don't care about the dollar amount. It doesn't matter because that version of me can lead from any place, from any dollar amount, from any version of this business, from any number of clients, from any number of people in the community that I'm going to create. That version of me can help billions of people. So even if that version of me only helps 1,000 people between now and the end of the year, that version of me is the exact version that can go anywhere that I need to go. So you will never regret making that leap. You won't. It feels so difficult to let go, but you have to let go of what was so you can create something new. And again, part of the reason why I have started to share this with you so vulnerably and so deeply, to share with you that the person that you're potentially trusting as your spiritual teacher literally had as an overdrawn bank account today. I'm telling you that because I don't care about all the details because I have the knowingness that I'm leading from the place that is actually going to help you and also from a place that is going to give you permission to fuck up and to not have everything looking perfectly and still be able to make a difference in the world and still be able to build the life that you want. Because that is what I do. I guide you through the chaos. I don't guide you to perfection. I don't guide you to some fantasy version of yourself that doesn't exist. I guide you to the real version of yourself that is capable of everything that you've ever wanted in your entire life. And I'm able to do that not only because of my own work and my own power and my own comfortability with the chaos, but because of the fact that I use things like your human design. I can literally right now, with your birth date, birth time, and place of birth, pull your energetic blueprint and help you come back to who you really are and help you come back to your own inner knowing. It is literally that simple. The blueprint is available. That doesn't mean that every single day it makes sense. That doesn't mean that every single day it feels easy, but the blueprint is literally available. So I also want you to know that because it is so easy for you to listen to all of the things that I say and to say or think things like, I mean, I don't know, Sabrina, like I know exactly what that lack and scarcity feels like. I know what the lack of freedom feels like. I know that this is not the life that I want, but I don't know if I believe you. I don't know if I can have the same confidence you have. But the thing is, you can. Every one of us has access to infinite potential. Every one of us has access to the most authentic version of ourselves. And it's okay that you don't see it. That's exactly why I'm here. I'm here to guide you back to that. I'm here to say it doesn't have to be this difficult. It doesn't have to be all this suffering. That doesn't mean that it's going to be perfect, but it doesn't have to suck. Life is not supposed to suck. I had such a beautiful full moon on Saturday. I took an edible and I had such an incredible full moon experience. I literally sat on my patio, I listened to electronic music, and I just enjoyed what was happening in the best way. I realized the depth at which I was feeling, and yes, I get that I wasn't sober, but it was way deeper than that. The depth to which I was feeling and enjoying my life was essentially the exact opposite of the way I felt a few years ago when I was numb and barely alive. Not only is it possible, but it is possible within any period of time that you decide. I'm not even saying it takes 2 years to get to this point, but can you imagine barely even wanting to be alive? And then 2 years later, you can't even imagine what that feels like anymore. That's what I want for you. That's what I know you have access to, and what I am ready to guide you towards. I am ready to guide you towards a life that is so completely unrecognizable from where you have been, from who you have been, from what you have done. And it's not because I have all the answers, because that's exactly what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to tell you I don't, but I'm trying to tell you that doesn't matter. Because I don't have to have all the answers for you. All I have to do is be confident enough to root in my own authentic self and powerful enough to know that I have the ability to guide you through the same chaos that I'm working through. Because the answers are inside of you. I'm not supposed to have the answers. Now, I get them in the way that I draw down the answers, the way that I allow them to come in, the way that I pull cards and then hit record, because that's the universe bringing this message to you. But again, that is still not an answer that I have. That is just an answer that I allowed to come through me for you to help remind you of the power and the knowing that you already have. So if you're wondering why all of the people you're listening to, all of the spaces you're paying for, all of the things that you're paying for haven't been working, it's because they aren't rooted in this new paradigm. And I am not even remotely the only one out there rooted in the new ways of being that will actually help you and won't just be either taking your money or more or less taking your money by maybe getting you like 2% better or something like that. Like, I'm not here to get you 2% better. I'm here to help you quantum leap into your highest timeline and to become the version of you that you've always wanted to be. That's what I care about. That doesn't mean that taking small steps to get there isn't profound, but we have to root into what is the goal that we are trying to reach. And so I am helping you root into a vision that I have for you, a vision where I know you can be so much more. Not because you aren't good enough in this moment, but because you already want it anyway. I'm not telling you to want something you don't already want because I can't do that. You gravitated to me and my message because you're already wanting more out of this life. You already know that there's more than just this social media optimization and these perfect strategies and these 5-step processes. You have to learn who you are. You have to learn to trust yourself. You have to learn how your own energy flows, and it is unique to you. There is a reason why human design is called the science of differentiation. That is why I say I don't have all the answers. I could sit down and try to figure out what's the 5 or 10 or 15 or whatever step process that I took to get to this, but it's not the same steps that you're meant to take on your journey. So it wouldn't help you. There's archetypal things that you're going to root into as well, like overcoming doubt and unworthiness, You're going to find self love. You're going to find authenticity and intimacy and transparency. You're going to learn how to detach from your expectations and just enjoy the magic as it comes. Like there's very archetypal things. And that's one of the reasons why I also do the work that I do. Human design, the gene keys, astrology, all of these things encompass these archetypal themes that we all feel and we all know. They just help guide you in which one of those is most important for you or which one of those is most important for you in this moment. You don't have to fly blind anymore. So, if you've been listening recently and you've been waiting for me to release everything, know that I am finished with at least the core parts of these offers this week. I will likely still be releasing some things next week as well, but there is so much available to you by the end of this week. It is the 12th when I am recording this. You are going to hear this podcast on the 14th. So I am referring to Sunday the 17th. There will be quite a bit available to you. You can find me on any social media platform, and I am making it as simple as possible. So if you have any desire to connect with me starting at the end of this week because everything is going to be very simple. You're not going to have to read through a bunch of text. You're not going to have to get on a call with me first. Everything is going to be there. You choose whatever entry point feels right for you. You choose whatever price point feels right for you because there's different things at different price points. There's different things that require different levels of inner work and different levels of awareness and different levels of being willing to go to another timeline, to find a different version of yourself that you haven't found before, to go beyond what you've been working on. In essence, everything that I do calls you above that. But some of them call you above that really quickly, and some of them call you above that a little bit more slowly. And so you decide however you want to connect with me. But I am here for you, and I am absolutely capable of helping you on your journey. Again, I am not here to save you. You already have the power. You already have the knowing. And whether you work with me or you work with someone else, I need you to know that because there is no one that is meant to save you. There is no one that is meant to fix it for you because also you don't need saving and fixing. You are already so incredible just for being who you are. It is that simple. But if you would like to learn from me or someone else, if you are feeling in your body that you are connecting and you are called to learn from me or someone else, then please do. Then please make that investment in yourself. But make that investment in yourself knowing that you are already capable, you already have the power, you already have the answers, you already have the knowing in the first place. Because that is one of the boldest moves you can ever make. Not only did I say no to that mastermind with Jessica Zweig for now because of the money situation, because of the fact that I literally don't have it available to pay her, even on the payment plan that she made available, but also because the boldest move for me right now was to say, I have all the answers I need. I don't need to pay someone else to do anything for me. I need to root into that and I need to hold that consistently for more than all of 5 seconds, which is about as long as I held it before. And yeah, I'm exaggerating. Maybe it was a month, but you get what I'm saying. I wasn't holding that energy consistently in the past. Now I am. Now this is where the abundance is going to come from. And this isn't just performative power. This isn't just how I'm showing up today. I showed up this way yesterday, and I will also be capable of showing up this way tomorrow as well. So if you stuck around, I appreciate you so much. And now that I'm going to have more concrete ways for you to connect with me, I really hope that I get the chance to connect with you soon. But ultimately, I know it's going to be in the timing that it's meant to be. So even if it's a year from now, that's okay. I will connect with you whenever it's meant to happen. That timing will always be perfect. I don't need to try to control that. Much love to you, and I will connect with you again next week.